So for this week's Just One Quilt Story, I'm with Printmaker and quilter Lucy with her beautiful paperclip quilt.
I decided I wanted a bedspread, and I think I was looking for a bedspread for possibly about 2 years. I thought I'm just going to have to start making them. I think the more I started looking at them, and then quilts popped up, and then so quilts were on the radar, they were on the kind of periphery, and then when my nephew came along, I was like, oh, I could try making him a small quilt and, you know, a little tester and see what happened. And that's kind of, I don't know, it was a bit like osmosis. Jumbo Paperclip started as a 100-day project. There were little postcard size prints, and for 100 days I did a different one. So I'd had these shapes and curves and spots, and the paperclip came out of that, and then it became a fabric design, and then I got hold of some templates to make the quilt. But it's not a secret society. But see, when you start talking to people about quilts, they're like, oh, my gran made a quilt, or oh, I've made a quilt. Do you know? But it's not something that people really, I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a secret society. I studied printmaking, fine art, years ago. I'd always wanted to do something creative, something with art, whatever. And then real life hit, so I decided to get a job. Previous role was a social worker in addiction services up in Aberdeenshire. Started quilting maybe about a couple of years before I left that work. It's a bit of a stress relief, and just to do something with my hands, and to shut off, and to be probably producing something that you could complete and finish, and it just stays like that. And maybe that's why my quilts are quite ordered. I used to think I was quite minimal, but I'm not minimal, but I'm not maximal either. So I've figured out that my style is like a reductionist or reductivist, whichever. So I have to give myself boundaries. I like using one shape and repeating it and seeing what comes of that, or playing with colour.
I look at your Instagram feed, like I aspire to be that kind of person, because I'm too messy and chaotic, or I get too excited by the next thing.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, so, and I can see that sometimes, even though you're restricting yourself, actually it makes you more creative sometimes, doesn't it? Because you've got to work within those rules. Yeah, I get it. It's
so you
good.
Can play with it. You can play with it more because you've already contained it, if you like. I discovered that printmaking it's the same thought process. You have to think in reverse. There's lots of shapes that fit together. You're creating layers and textures. So when you're creating a quilt, you're piecing together these, not just shapes, but then your colours and your palettes, and you're creating, essentially, you're just creating an image. But then you're adding texture on top, so that could be quilting or embroidery, or the way if you knot it, or how you bind it. And there's just these nuances in printmaking. It's really similar. It's just a similar thought process. Yeah.
So when you're actually sat physically sewing, how does that make you feel?
I think it's a bit like a meditation. It's quite nice. I quite like it. You can just shut off, and you really can just focus on whether you're just listening to your podcast or watching something, you've got something on. It just kind of shuts you off, but you just need to have a go and see what happens. And then your style develops as time goes on, and you gather your influences from other places, and then eventually it develops into your own individual style.
And what's next then for Lucy Engels, do you think?
What's next? Patterns and fabric. Quilts, patterns and fabric. That's it. That's what I'm focusing next year.